Cam Crichton is a veteran of animation, with over a dozen feature film credits to his name, TVCs, game creations, music videos, and the list goes on, including spending 8 years putting fur on characters. You might even know some of his more notable characters, such as Raymond the Ram's Home Alone mascot or the zombie kangaroo. Cam now shares his vast experience with budding animators as a lecturer at Deakin University. And this interview was incredibly insightful into what it takes to make memorable animations. Cam, thank you so much for joining us.
My
Joining me.
pleasure.
It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you.
I guess I wanted to start off with asking and pardon the pun here, but what drew you into animation?
Well, not drawing. I think I
Ah,
was fascinated by drawing or obsessed with drawing as a kid, and my grandma would bring home butcher's paper so that I could sit on the lounge room floor and just draw endless
wow.
pictures of generally monkeys and
Ah,
monsters and things. But seeing King Kong, the Harryhausen film, when I was about 8 years old, and it's unbelievable how many animators actually saw that film and that inspired them to become animators. But
wow.
I'm in that group. I just saw that film and was like, I want to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what I'm looking at, but
Wow.
I want to do that. And it wasn't so much because you're looking at stop motion, right? So you're not looking at a cartoon going, oh, I can draw, I can do that eventually. This was something that was just totally alien, totally foreign, and just like no idea how they did that. Until
Wow.
much later when you're a teenager and you start figuring out, oh, it's stop motion and they do it by taking a sequence of images and moving the puppet and blah, blah, blah. But I became obsessed with monkeys and dinosaurs, as every most young boys do, and drawing was my thing. So I kind of got sidetracked a little. I went to a special education school for like advanced education, and everything was academic, and they wanted you to do music and languages and
Mm.
go to university and become a lawyer or a doctor and all that kind of stuff. So I got very sidetracked there because all I wanted to do was art from a very young age. And when I got out of high school and I did a tertiary orientation program at RMIT,
Mm.
which was all about art. And that was fantastic. And then I left that and went off and did an audio course, and I learned all about audio. So I was priming myself for something that I didn't even know was coming down the pipe, because this is pre-computer age. This is all back in the 80s.
Yeah, right.
And then I was actually working at RMIT when one of the teachers came back from Germany saying, "Oh my God, they're making pictures on computers."
Huh.
And this is pre-Photoshop as well. And I think I wrangled my way into getting into the computer aided art and design course there, which was I think the first year or second year that it had run. And we learned how to make images on computers. This is back in '91,
Wow.
and it all took off from there. So what drew me to animation was animation itself, mostly stop motion.
Mm. Yeah.
But the advent of computers really is what allowed me to step into the industry.
Okay.
Up until that point, it was, yeah, like I said, it was just this weird foreign thing that was, I had no idea how you would actually go about doing that. The ability to set up a stop motion studio or an animation studio at all back in the 90s in Australia seemed an absolute pipe dream. Like,
Yeah, I
how would you
imagine.
even go about doing that?
Yeah.
And what are the skills you need to know to be able to do that kind of thing?
Mm.
So a very long process. I mean, pretty much all through the 90s, I worked in new media, and that was things like touchscreen kiosks at Science Works.
Huh.
Web pages were huge, so we were doing like interactive stuff on web pages, making web pages for Channel 7 and the Olympics and all sorts of things.
Wow. And
And
so,
I've,
I mean, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and eventually that all kind of went away
Oh.
through mostly financial reasons. The Asian stock market crash. We were
Mm.
working for big clients at the time, and they pretty much bankrupted our company. And then I took
Mm.
the opportunity to step sideways and learn animation, and I found Dylan. we mentioned Dylan before,
Yes,
from
yes.
Momentum Animations.
Good friend of ours. Mm-hmm.
And I just started hanging around. It was like, hey, let's learn how to animate. And, I'd been working in the industry for years and animating, but not character animating, not being able to make a character, live and breathe on the screen. And that was pretty much the start of the journey into animation from there.
That's very cool. So clearly, and I mean, this is amazing. You have lived your passion so far your whole life then.
Pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of boring corporate work that goes along to support that dream of being able to then step outside of that and create something that you want to create, not what your client wants you to create. It's a huge difference. I think if we're to break it down in percentages of the time that I've spent creating stuff for myself versus service work, it'd be like 98% service work and 2%, original creative content. And we're talking over, 35 years. So
that's pretty good.
Considerable amount of time. But I mean, you do what you do to stay alive. And
of course.
One thing that being an animator or a director or any kind of creative, what that really qualifies you for when things like 9/11 happens or COVID happens or whatever, it qualifies you for lifting heavy things. Basically, you're the first up against the wall. There's no work for, you make nice, pretty images with puppets. Yeah. Cool. You go and stand over there. What do you do? What I mean? So it is a bit of a tightrope as well to have a career that actually can, sustain itself in the creative industry over decades.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. Yeah.
No. And I know that a lot of creative people were hit really hard during COVID. So, it is, I agree with you. It's one of those industries that's a bit tenuous at times. Cam, can you share with me, because I know that you have like over a dozen feature film credits, you've done games, you've done TVCs, all sorts of things. But what led you into the path of teaching? So, because you're obviously
I love
lecturing
teaching.
at Deakin.
Yeah, I love teaching. And it's one thing that, I guess if I was to describe my career path, it would be like a pachinko ball just hitting hitting a node and just bouncing to the left or right, and just your leaf on the wind. You'd go in the direction that the opportunity allows. Someone calls you up and says, hey, you want to do this? And you're like, yeah. You have no idea whether you can do that or not, but you're just like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so you're a bit sort of, you don't really have that kind of direction to force yourself into this or that or whatever, or you don't have the luxury to sort of do that. You pretty much just go where the work is. But teaching's one thing that I kind of actively pursued because I just love it so much. I think that, inspiring the next generation with that same love of animation and, creating content, I guess, for, if you want to refer to it that way, is really important to me. And it also, I get to stand up and tell everyone all the stuff that I know, and they all go, wow, he knows so much stuff. So it's a big ego.
It is an impressive CV, I'll give you that.
But I started teaching back at Holmesglen, TAFE. And eventually it was a great way to recruit people. At that time I was working at Act 3 and we were doing cinematics for games. So I was grabbing students that were the top of the heap and pulling them into Act 3, and we would do some great work there. And it doesn't happen so much these days. I'm not sort of the pipeline into industry that I used to be, but I still love that. Just that imparting knowledge, and also just seeing what people can come up with once you give them the skills to be able to, go out and create whatever it is that they want to do.
Oh, I agree 100%, Cam. I'm a teacher as well. And when you see a student passionate about something and skilled in that area because they're so, driven by it, it's inspiring, isn't it? You want to help them get better and better and better. Like you just want to fuel that passion. It's really enticing. It's amazing. Tell me, when you're teaching animation students, what do you think then is the most important principle you want them to understand about bringing characters to life in animation?
So I'd say most of my career has just been very logistical. We've got a character and he needs to go over and hit the other guy in the head with a sword. All right, cool. Let's animate that, do some key poses, boom, there it is. Off you go. But one thing that I've come to realize, like maybe a bit late in the game, but the course that I currently teach at Deakin is character performance. And we really focus on like body language. I don't do any facial animation, so it's really about how they move, the physicality of performance. And one thing I like to really emphasize is that through that physicality, that character has to have a thought process.
Cool. Yep.
You have to refer to your character as the character. It's not just this inanimate puppet that you're moving around on your screen. It's a personality. You might start a conversation with your puppet, and you might be talking to them whilst you're working on the shot. You basically need to give them a thought process, give them a life, give them a character, give them a personality, because if you don't believe that character is real, then your audience is not going to believe it.
That's amazing.
So you have to really embody that character in and we'll probably talk about this in a moment, but acting for animators, I think, it's this kind of tangent that kind of muddies the waters a bit in terms of the process of animation, that kind of stuff. Animators are mostly introverted people that spend a lot of time in front of a computer or away from social groups. So, this kind of trend of acting for animators, where you get up and perform and film yourself doing it, right? Well, you're an animator and you're not an actor. And a lot of introverted people find it very difficult to get up and act something out.
Yeah.
But animators have that whole process going on inside their head, and it is revealed through their through their fingers and hands into the keyboard or into the puppet or whatever the medium is, and they realize that through the character performance, through the key poses that they're setting up and the animation that they're doing. They don't necessarily have the ability to get up and act that out.
That's quite amazing. Are they limited therefore? Because I kind of think I've seen behind the scenes where they've had actors going through the motions and acting out the scenes for animators. So if an animator is trying to do that on their own, are they limited by their acting ability?
Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out. We used to do mocap for the games, and we used to do that at Deakin, the Deakin Motion Lab. Back in the day, used to be bigger than Weta's mocap studio, and we were doing a lot of cinematics and game stuff in there. Essentially, and I've lost track of the ask that question again. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'm just saying, therefore.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. So if we had a performer who would come in for the mocap session and they couldn't quite do the double roll or the whatever, or they might be an actor coming in to do acting scenes and they had a bit of physical performance they couldn't quite get, or more was the case where we had stunt people, dancers, martial artists. They would come in, and then we'd get them to do all of the bulk of the motion. Then we'd try and get them to do a little acting scene, because we've got one or two acting scenes. You have to deliver some lines, and they just couldn't do it.
Of course, everyone has their specialty. That's it.
It's not in their wheelhouse. And I feel it's the same way in the other direction. If you're an animator, or if you're an actor, you're not going to be able to do a double barrel roll.
No, that's it.
Essentially, if that's what your reference is, that's what your input is to inform your animation, then it's only going to be as good as your acting performance. And if you're not an actor and you're an animator, you're not going to be able to realize that physically. You might be able to do it other ways, but the physical performance that's why you get actors in to come and be reference for your animators. So you get a dancer to come in and dance. You don't expect the animator to get up and do a dance.
No, of course.
But you do expect them to get up and perform, that something would take years in drama school to be able to deliver.
Yeah, wow. And I think that, go, finish, Karen.
No, I'll just keep talking. So please.
No, that's right. I just want to clarify for any listeners, mocap is motion capture, isn't it? So capturing the motion of someone doing the dance or the acting or the stunt or whatever it was. Yeah. And I think that kind of maybe answers my next question, which is the difference between good animation and great animation. For obviously part of it is going to be the input they have.
Mm.
So is there anything else that would separate good animation from great? And I know there's probably other
I
elements as
think, look,
well.
yeah, there's stuff like if you watch, say, Guillermo del Toro, hang on, is that him? I get him mixed up.
Not
There's too
sure.
many Guillermos. Um, the Pinocchio, the guy who did the
Oh,
latest
yeah.
Pinocchio. Um, so that is probably some of the most amazing animation you will ever see.
Wow.
Stop
Okay.
motion animation you'll ever see. It's beautiful. I think there's several films. Anything that like it does is just amazing. In terms of animation quality, and uh, that, however, is an almost unwatchable film. I've
Mm.
probably seen 10, 15 minutes of that at a time before I have to turn it off.
Mm.
So great animation, skill level, great animation doesn't
Mm.
necessarily make. And I think you could probably think about live action films in the same way. I'm sure there's big budget films that look fantastic. They're amazing, but
Yeah.
they're not a good film.
Yeah.
So great animation in terms of like great skill. Okay, that's just like skill level. It's just
Okay.
you've been doing it for
Yes.
years. You're fantastic at what you do. You've got all the great key poses. Your character's got an internal monologue, and everything's wonderful. Doesn't necessarily make a great film or an
Yeah,
immersion
that
piece.
makes
And
sense.
I think that's the thing is you've got to be able to immerse yourself in that environment that the animator or the director has created, and you basically are hypnotized. I think all
Yeah,
film, and
right.
particularly animation, is a form of hypnosis. You go in there and you're hypnotized into the world, and you spend that hour or 2 hours immersed in that environment, in that world, and you get attached to the characters. You start to feel
Mm.
the story, the beats, it's all personal to you in that
Yeah.
experience. And to me, that's what makes great animation. It's the same as makes a great film. You're immersed in it. And the skill level of that animation, it doesn't necessarily add to that. Like it can, it certainly
Gotcha.
impedes it. But some of my favorite animated films are not very well animated,
Yeah. But you've
but
connected with the characters and
exactly.
you've
And I'll
been
watch
taken
them
on the
20,
journey.
30
Yeah.
times, and I've connected to the story or the character
Yeah.
or the world that they're in. And I really believe that's it. It's creating a cohesive world. It's Miyazaki is probably the master of that. Spirited Away is
Ah,
probably one of the
yeah.
most
Classic.
amazing cinematic journeys you'll go on. I mean, it's so all encompassing and just
Mm.
it's like Lord of the Rings in its own right, in the way that it just takes you into this other world and transports you to what those characters are feeling. You believe that you're stuck in that bathhouse with her trying to get out. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so immersion, I think, is key, and all of the things
Mm.
that go to that, or add to that sort of is what makes the film great, or the animation great. So not necessarily the greatest animation skills, that
Yeah.
lead to that. Mm.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me for this chat with Cam, part one. Stay tuned for part two, which is just as good, if not better. And don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss any new episode. Until next time, I look forward to you joining us.